How are you? How are you all? We were just talking over there. I'm sorry. We got new questions now. I mean, the one thing I've been talking long before. We now have some of the highest elected Democrats in the nation, from governors to mayors, that are just watching what's happened since Biden has come in with this border, just wide open. It's destroying their cities. New York, you would think if they were talking about the border, you thought they'd be talking about the Canadian border. That is not the case. The number one issue in New York today are all the immigrants who came here illegally and the cost that it is to the city. They have asked this president to do something different. The governor of New York has told people to go somewhere else. The governor of Massachusetts has declared an emergency. El Paso mayor says it's on a brink of whether they're going to collapse. The president's created this problem on his own with his own policies. His secretary says the border is secure. The only person who reports on that is CNN, and I don't think they even believe it. But the thing that we have found time and again, you watch that border agent all bloodied in the battles that they've had fought down there. We've watched what has happened, people coming from 160 different countries. We watched in February, know this in February, that more people were caught on the terrorist watch list in that 1 month than were caught in the last administration all 4 years. And we know in this country, too deadly, what a few people that have something really planned against us can do. We've watched people from Yemen trying to come into California. I always wonder, why are they wanting to come here? Who are they talking to, and what do they have planned? They're coming from 160 different countries. And to get on the terrorist watch list is not an easy thing to do. And we've watched just breaking records just 2 days ago, 11,000 people in one day. I know all your networks don't cover it all, but there's some that show it day in and day out. And what's really amazing to me is the number of Democrat elected officials who have been calling out, begging, and just being ignored. Well, I think an opportunity here is for the President of the United States, since he had taken the action to do this. We will move tonight on a rule that brings up 4 more appropriation bills. We're the only body in the House to pass any yet. And if we pass those next 4, that would be 72% of all the discretionary spending. And we will continue to work through. But to keep the government open, if the president was willing to change part of his plans along this border, we can fund this government going forward. We will have a continuing resolution vote in this House on the rule to bring it up. We had passed H.R. 2 months ago. The Senate again ignores to bring anything up. But I think this is a call that comes from across the nation, from the highest Democrats and the Republicans, on something that can unite the nation as a whole to get that work done.
Speaker, when was the last time that you spoke to the president? And then I have a non-shutdown question.
Personally, with the president, it's been a little while, but I've talked to his staff members.
But have you talked to him on this?
I talked to his staff members on this.
Got it. My non-shutdown question
yes.
is, can I have your reaction to, if you have any more faith in the Department of Justice since the indictment of Senator Menendez, do you still think it's political?
Look, I've watched their political actions taken before. I don't know about this case. That doesn't mean every action they're going to take is political, but I've watched them use political plays many times before, and I think the country has as well.
McCarthy, what you're proposing right now, getting the appropriations bills through that you can, and then a short-term CR with the border provisions, do you have the votes for that?
Well, I would sit back and think, if the highest elected Democratic governors and mayors, it would seem to me there would be some Democrats who would want to do this.
But within your own party?
Well, I wouldn't know who in our own party would want to side and take the position of Biden on the border. I can't think of anyone that would want to do that.
Mr. Speaker,
yes.
You called on Bob Menendez to
resign. Did I call on, or did you ask me a question?
Well, you did over the weekend. You said he should resign. Do you think that George Santos, who's been indicted on federal criminal charges, should also resign?
No, I think George could have his day in court, and I think Menendez can have his day in court for all the
Why do you think he needs to resign then?
It could be his choice of what he wants to do, yes.
Are you worried that enough Republicans will join Democrats on a discharge petition to fund the government, like have a clean CR?
I'm not worried about that, no.
Mr. Speaker, when do you want to meet with the president?
Well, I would have wanted to meet with him long before. I've been trying on many different issues. But I just think today, when I see, think about it. New York is a very Democrat state, wouldn't you think? Even though we elected 5 new Republicans from there, I think those people in New York aren't happy with their leadership up there. But the president was just in New York. He was in the New York City to deal with the UN. Can you imagine? Probably one of the most prominent mayors elected in the country comes from New York. They couldn't even meet because they're at a crossroads about the southern border. The governor comes out and says, go somewhere else. Massachusetts, there's not one Republican member of Congress from Massachusetts, and the Democratic governor of Massachusetts declares an emergency because of the southern border. How many times are we going to hear about another American being poisoned and killed from fentanyl coming across this border? And how many times are we going to continue to hear this secretary say the border is secure when no one believes it? You see the thousands of people every day coming.
Mr. Speaker, right now the Senate is working on passing its own sort of clean version of the CR. We're waiting for text. Are you closed to bringing that up for a vote before the shutdown could happen?
You know, it's interesting. I waited a long time for them to do something on the debt ceiling. They never did. I waited a long time for them to do something on the border. They never did when we sent them H.R. 2. I waited a long time for them to do something about the Americans being hurt by the energy costs so high when we passed H.R. 1 that would make America energy independent, stronger jobs, lower the price of gas, and they did nothing. I heard all this time they were going to pass appropriation bills all month. Remember? You all wrote about it. They were the good chambers. They haven't passed anything yet. So when they pass something, come back and ask me.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, all of the bills that you're trying to move through the floor this week don't have the votes to go anywhere in the Senate. You weren't even able to pass.
I didn't know. Are you the whip?
It's controlled by Democrats. They're saying they're passing bills at different spending levels than the ones that you're moving through the House. So
wait. State your question again. Were you stating that the bills we're putting on the floor do not have the votes to pass?
In the Senate.
So what bills did they pass? Hold on. Which bills did they pass in the Senate?
They passed a bunch out of committee.
Okay, well, what did they pass in the Senate?
They're getting ready to bring up a CR.
What bills have they passed in the Senate?
I'm trying to ask you.
I know, but I'm trying to
Mr.
ask you
Speaker.
because you phrased something to tell me our bills can't pass the Senate. I'm just wanting to know, has the Senate passed any appropriation bills? Yes or no? Have they passed one or
They're
zero?
working on passing a CR. Will you bring it up this week?
Well, they were working on passing appropriation bills all month.
Are you ruling out passing a bipartisan
No.
CR that
I'm
the
ruling
Senate
out
sends over to
hypothetical
you?
questions that never seem to become true.
Here's another question. You've talked about this bill that you would like to see President Biden sign.
Mm-hmm.
When will you put that bill, that CR, with the border package on the floor for a vote?
It'll be this week. I'd like to possibly, I want to see how fast we can do these bills and then put it on.
Do you need to see these bills done before you put a CR on the floor?
Looking at the timing, I'll work with the leader on the
Do you
timing,
think
but I
you'll
think
put it on the floor before Saturday?
Oh, yeah, well before Saturday.
And Mr. Speaker, what?
I just didn't want to give you the exact day. Then you come to me. If I said Wednesday and we had to do it Thursday because we were doing more.
Mr. Speaker, what continuing resolution will that be? Will it be the one that you unveiled in committee last week, or are you going to?
Yeah, I like that one, and I know there are some other ideas that some people have maybe to add to it a little something or not. I don't know. We'll look at what people are talking about.
30 to 45 days, or what? How long?
I think that was about 30 days. I think 30 to 45, yeah.
Well, which one's 30?
Yes, I'm sorry, what?
Would you definitively rule out whether Ukraine aid will be part of it, or is that wrong?
I don't think Ukraine aid should be taken up in the supplemental. I don't quite understand when you have all these people across the country talking about the challenges happening in America today, that people would go and say, oh, we need to do Ukraine and ignore what's happening along our border. I think that would be the wrong approach.
Did you mean CR? You said supplemental.
Or both? You mean both?
I said, well, let me phrase back. The question you were asking me, would it be on the CR? My answer would be no, that should be dealt with in a supplemental when you do it. So those are two separate things. I'm only talking about keeping the government funded during this.
And no disaster aid, Mr. Speaker, right?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
So what seems to be some of the major concerns that are still on the table that you need to work with with other Republicans in the House? And then if you can you also provide a response to the president going out to the auto workers strike?
You've got a big table if you want to work on all the issues. It's interesting to me. The president goes out to the United Auto Workers strike. He created the reason why they're on strike. They're on strike because their jobs are going away. Why? Because this president subsidizes electric cars over everything else, and the Democratic Party starts eliminating all other cars, which is moving their jobs overseas, so now they're picketing. That'd be the last person I'd invite to go picket with me. He's the person causing the problems.
Mr. Speaker, is your speakership on the line here in the shutdown debate?
Why?
We've heard, some of your members have told us they've been ready. They've been thinking about
Oh,
motions to
man.
debate.
That should make me worried, huh? It's the same thing you asked me before I got elected speaker. I'm not worried about whether there's a speakership place online. The only thing I care about is fighting for the American people. And you know what? That means securing our border. That means lowering the cost of energy.
A government shutdown
But if
could be
that-
avoided if you, say, put in some border provisions, but also work with Democrats to get across the line. Why not?
I would love Democrats.
Why not go talk to the Democrats?
Okay, tell me when you're done and I'll answer.
I'm done.
Okay. I would love Democrats to join with us on a continuing resolution that would secure the border. There are enough Democrat leaders out there that are calling for it. So I don't understand. I would think everybody in Massachusetts, if you are a member of Congress from Massachusetts, your governor has declared a state of emergency. Now, if you have the opportunity to stop that, to actually vote for securing the border, that would show a lot. If you're in New York, you've got your governor, you've got your mayor, all calling for it. It's the number one issue. So you'd have an opportunity. There's lots of opportunity. If you're a Democrat, you're down in Texas, you're in Arizona, you have this opportunity.
What do you think of when President Trump says to the Republicans they should get everything they want, if not shut it down? Do you agree with that message?
I think the President, Trump, always, the art of negotiation, he's always putting different out there. I think, in my understanding, what I've always told you before, I like to keep government open. I like to keep government working in the right direction. That's why I think this President Biden, should actually do something that everybody across the country is asking for. All you have to do, it's your policies that created this. You don't even have to write a law. You can just say, you know what? I've listened to the Democrat governors. I listened to what's happening in Massachusetts. You've got a state of emergency there. I've listened to what's happening in El Paso. I've listened to the families that their children have died from the fentanyl. And you know what? I'm going to work with the Republicans too. We're going to find common ground. Maybe you don't provide everything, but take the first step. Pull something back, and let's fund this government for a short time period while we finish all the approaches. Now, I don't know how long it'll take the Senate, but the way you guys report on the Senate, I'm sure they'll get it done tomorrow. So we'll be all right to get there.
Do you think that's been helpful for the former president to say, shut it down? Is that actually...
I don't know. The president's always out there negotiating, so.
What are the chances of a government shutdown right now?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask President Biden. Why would he hold back? Why would he hold back and keep the border this way when Democrats and Republicans across the country just begging him? Families of those who have died and been poisoned from fentanyl. Would it be too much to say, you know what? I'm going to work with both sides. I realize 11,000 people came across yesterday, that's too much. I realize, I'm not finished my answer, and I realize that these new records each moment, that catching these people on the terrorist watch list, that's wrong for this nation. I see the trains coming and the people being hurt. You know what? We should do something differently. And I think one of the best signs of a leader is acknowledging when they should correct, when they should do something different. And I believe this is a moment in time that he should reach across the aisle with us, and I want to work with him. I'll be the first one there to work with him, just like we did on the debt ceiling. Let's do something on the border, keep government open, and show this nation that we can do it right and solve the rest of our problems as we go. Thank you all very much.
How does this messaging change to the